Alright guys, welcome back to this episode of In the Garage. And in this episode, we're going to be prepping the door for epoxy primer. Alright guys, so we're not going to be using POR 15 on this door, and I'll tell you why. The rust that's on this door is minimal in comparison to the rest of the vehicle, and is simply surface rust. So, but it still has to be treated. You cannot put bodywork over surface rust. You cannot put any type of automotive finish over surface rust. So it's just as active as the heavy deep pitting rust that you've seen on other panels of the car, and it just hasn't been active as long. So what we're going to do is we are going to, let's see, not in there. It's over here. All right. We're going to be using this, and it does what POR 15 does on a smaller scale. So it converts the rust into a paintable surface, and actually turns the rust sort of a, well, you can see a black color. But you need about 2 coats, and this don't go on thick. This is thinner than water. So a couple of swipes will do you. This will give us a smooth, paintable surface. Just like POR 15. Except we're not going to go, or it's not that we're not, we don't have to go through all the processes that we did with POR 15. It'd be nice if the whole car I could do this with. That would definitely reduce the time, reduce the labor, reduce the work, reduce the cost, and but what are you gonna do? It is what it is. We'll let that set until it turns that blacker than what it is right now, because this will be the second coat. Then we'll do what little body work we have to do. If you remember in the last video, we had to straighten up this edge, get it up there where it's a little more uniform with the rest of it. We also had to do some welding down here. You remember on the last video, this had a big split down through here, so I had to weld that up and then build a new corner. So I'll bring you back here momentarily. Okay, so we've got our rust converter on and dry, and we're going to start our body work. So if you noticed earlier in the video, when I got close to this split down here, you can see a rust hole. Alright, so this is how I will deal with this rust hole. So what, oops, there's my finger. So What you should do is weld that up. All right. Yes, you can weld this up. The problem is the chances of me chasing a hole that I blow through here and adding so much heat to this area is really high. So if I get too much rust here, this whole section is going to push either really far in or really far out, usually really far in, and it's going to create a bigger mess than what I have right now. So what I'm going to do, or what I've already done rather, I took an angle grinder with some 40 grit disc on it, and I roughed this area up real good. And then I took a round, like a round-ended chisel, or punch rather, something like that. And I went around it and just sort of dinged around through there and sort of pushed that metal in a little bit. And then I'm going to add my polyester filler while I'm fixing this. I'm just going to swipe it down through there. And the reason that I tapped it in is because if you leave that hole flush, then you've got no body work there to sand. And when you get down to where this is super good and level, you'll still be able to see, let's see, how do I say that? The body work will be so thin in that hole that it will likely just push right through. So by denting this in a little bit, and when I say denting in, I don't mean a dent. I mean you can barely see it, okay? So that's going to give me a little bit more thickness on my filler, and roughing it up around the edges is going to really give that filler something good to stick to. So that's how I'm going to deal with that pinhole. Alright guys, we got the body. Let me turn this fan off. I don't know why I keep forgetting to do that. We got the body work done, and sort of went back. Oh, you can see that shiny spot right there. Sort of went back over what we had sanded to make sure that we still had our rust converter coating on there. So I went back and reapplied that where I needed to reapply it. Something I wanted to hit on a minute ago. A minute ago we were talking about this little pinhole that was right here, and how I had to fix that. You know, usually, there's a couple of things you can do. If you could get your hands on like a piece of brass or a piece of copper rod or something like that. Say you wanted to weld this hole up. One of the problems you're going to run into is the size of the hole, which means you're going to be there for a minute welding, which also means you're going to add a lot of heat. So something that can, let me trade hands here, something that'll help you out, if you can get you a piece of brass rod and stick back behind that hole and weld to that, you'll be able to fill that hole a whole lot faster. So you can see the brass sticking through the hole there. And your weld is not going to stick to the brass rod. So it gives you something to weld against. That way you can get it done a little bit quicker and get it done without adding so much heat. Had I been able to get to that weld, or that hole, that's how we would have done it. But as you can see, as you saw, we have all of our body work done, and trying to think of the best way to go about doing this, whether build me a frame to hang this door from and prime both sides at the same time, or flip it over, prime the inside, give it a day or two, and flip it back over and prime the outside. I would think I would rather prime both of them at the same time, both sides at the same time. But we'll see how that works out. Anyway, thanks for dropping back in and spending a little bit of your time. And if you haven't already, hit that like button. Leave me a comment. I check all the comments, so tell me what you think. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification. That way you'll be notified every time I release new content. And until next time,